All right, so we're joined by my friend Natasha Magee-Woods, municipal court judge for Shaw, Mississippi, also graduate of Jackson State University and Madison County Schools parent. We thank you so much for joining us today. I've got a room full here with me at Belma Jackson High School. We're recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. And we are in the law career cluster, and I can't think of a better person than a local law expert to take us through some of the careers in the legal system. So again, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, so you have a really interesting background. You are a graduate of Jackson State, but being in the legal field was not your original goal. So take us through kind of your background because it's quite interesting.
Yeah. So when I was a young child, my mom worked at Jackson State University, and they used to have summer camps, science, technology, engineering, mathematics camps. And I was a part of the Academy of Science, Engineering, and Technology. And they taught us about how there was a lack of minorities in the STEM field. And so every year I was in a STEM summer camp, and I'm a product of the Jackson Public School District, and I was in the Open Doors program. That's the program for gifted or exceptional students. And one of our projects was to interview somebody who did the type of position that we wanted to do. So I went to Jackson State University and I interviewed a professor by the name of Dr. Ryan, and he was an environmental scientist. And I remember when I was growing up, everybody wanted to be either a doctor or a lawyer, but you never heard about people wanting to be like a scientist or a technologist, an engineer or mathematics, a mathematician. And so it was after speaking with him and learning about the field of environmental science that I decided that I wanted to obtain my PhD in environmental science. And so from there on up until I went to college, that was the plan. So I graduated from high school at the age of 16 and started college at 16.
Wow.
And yeah, I was majoring in biology. And so and I ended up graduating from college at the age of 19. But when
Wow.
I was at Jackson State, I majored in biology and I did marine environmental sciences. And then my parents had a rule. They said that since I wasn't of age to actually like leave out of state, that I had to be 21 or the average age of someone that could go out of state. So since I finished my bachelor's degree at 19, I said, okay, I get my master's degree in biology, and I ended up doing that. Met my husband, and decided to stick around and pursue my PhD in environmental science, which I did. But it was during my PhD program at Jackson State in environmental science that there was a chapter on environmental health and environmental justice. And I remember there was a movie called Erin Brockovich where
Yep.
they were talking about environmental contamination and lawsuits associated with that. And I was like, yeah, I want to be like Erin Brockovich, and I want to be able to understand the science and also be able to sue them. And so that's when I got the idea to go to law school because I got tired of being on the boat because I did marine biology and fisheries. And then I knew that I loved being around people and talking. So being in a lab just wasn't going to be a good fit for me. So that's when I decided I'm going to go to law school and do environmental marine law. Now, once I attended law school at the University of Mississippi School of Law, I did their environmental clinic and I took environmental law, global climate change law, and all these courses, getting ready to be an environmental attorney. And I remember doing a clerkship at the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. And then I did one, I was an honors judicial law clerk for the EPA in Washington, D.C. But unfortunately, Mississippi doesn't take the environment as seriously as other states. And we are literally an environmental justice mecca, but they don't. And so there was not a lot of work here. And at the time, my kids were very young. So I didn't want to relocate them to, Washington, D.C. or California or Texas. So I chose to do another area of law. While I was in law school, I did a public service externship. So that's where like you intern and you go to work every day as a student lawyer. And so I externed at the Hinds County Public Defender's Office. And that's basically providing criminal defense to indigent individuals. And while it was a cool job and I was good at it, I was like, ugh, I think I want to lock up criminals. And so at that point, that's when I realized I wanted to like become a prosecutor. And so at some point, I did get the opportunity to become a prosecutor. I was an assistant district attorney in Holmes, Humphreys, Yazoo County. That is the 21st Judicial District. And I did that for a few years. And then the AG's office hired me to be a special assistant attorney general for the state of Mississippi. And so I prosecuted cases all over the state of Mississippi. I worked there for several years and enjoyed my work. I worked in the Medicaid fraud control unit. So I was a healthcare prosecutor where I prosecuted doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners and CNAs for fraud perpetrated against the state of Mississippi's Division of Medicaid, as well as prosecuted people who abused, neglected, and exploited vulnerable persons. And so at some point, there was a municipal court judge position, and that is one of the only judicial positions in the state of Mississippi that is an appointed position. The mayor of Shaw, Mississippi saw my resume and he hired me on the spot. And so for the last 6 months, I've been a municipal court judge. Municipal court judges in the state of Mississippi are not full-time jobs. They're part-time positions. So I'm now able to practice law. And so I opened up my own law firm, the Woods Group, and it's located at 3915 North State Street in the Fondren District in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I'm just enjoying serving the people in Shaw, Mississippi as their municipal court judge, and also taking cases, whether it be criminal defense, personal injury, family law, just a boutique law firm that handles a wide variety of cases. So
that's awesome. Now, and that is, and I did not know that, because I was going to ask about judges, how they're either, the federal judges are appointed by the president. County judges are in elections. I did not know about how municipal judges are appointed. Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about, and that's an incredible background. That resume just makes anybody stupid. But when it comes to careers as an attorney, everybody watches Law and Order, or All Rise, and all the, A Time to Kill, all these courtroom dramas. And people think that that's really the way the legal system or the legal careers go. And I actually have he's actually going to be with us next block. And he said he became an attorney because he saw people in Law and Order, and he just saw himself nailing somebody on the witness stand. And he was like, and that never happens.
Not hardly. I've had a couple of opportunities to nail people on a witness stand, but that's not everyday life for sure. I remember because, like I said, I've been a criminal prosecutor, and a part of that is litigation. It's really litigation heavy because you're in trials just about all the time, because unfortunately in the state of Mississippi we have a lot of criminals. And so that is something that I talk to the jury about prior to proceeding into trial, because before you go to trial you have to select your jurors, or who would be the best jurors for that particular case. And so I tried to tell them that, if you watch a lot of TV law, that's not what you're going to see here, right? So you're going to be highly disappointed. So go ahead and flush all of that out your head, because that's not what we're doing here today. So yeah, and the crazy thing about it is, in law school, in our ethics class, they actually show TV shows, law TV shows, and show us how ethically that is not what we're supposed to be doing. So they use that to teach us what's wrong versus what is right. So a lot of that is fabricated, highly fabricated. Some of it is based on factual stuff, but the majority of it is not what you're going to see every day.
Wow. Now, something else I wanted to talk about is, dealing with an attorney, dealing with a judge. That doesn't mean somebody's going to jail. If you ever, if you're ever going to get married, you're going to have to deal with some sort of legal paperwork. Heaven forbid, if you get divorced, you're going to have to go to court. If you ever have any sort, I know you also do with last will and testaments. If there's ever dispute of things that have to be divided, or even just legally putting in the paperwork. So I think that's important to know, that every time you go to a courthouse, every time you deal with an attorney, it doesn't mean that somebody's broken the law and you're going to jail. There are
Correct.
several areas of law, several areas, and there's several attorneys that really don't go to court that much, but have important jobs to help people and to help companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, criminal law is just one area of law. When you go to law school, there are a wide variety of classes that you take. There are first year curriculum courses that every student must take, and then, of course, after your first year, if you survive, because a lot of people flunk out, after your first year, you get to kind of select the classes that you want to take based on where your interests lie. So, for instance, my son, he graduated from Madison Central in 2021, and he's now at the University of Mississippi School of Law, where I attended. He was the youngest in his class, 19, and he's taken all these courses. He's in contracts law, he's in legal research and writing, he's in torts, and they have property classes. So there's a first year curriculum that gives you a broad exposure to the major legal fields that somebody might potentially be working in. And so now during his first year, he's seeing some other courses that he's potentially interested in. He says he wants to be a general counsel or work at a hospital. Not necessarily one of those big time litigators that go to court all the time, but one that's in the scene, in the office, making the big bucks. And so he's saying, oh, I think I'm going to take bankruptcy law. I think I'm going to take securities law and this law course and that law course to kind of help prepare him for his future career. So there are a host of different legal fields. And like you said, the bottom line is every time you go before a judge is not a bad thing. It's not just criminal law where you're going to go to jail. Some issues have to be presented to a judge. So like you said, I'm doing a probate, an estate probate. And so nobody's done anything wrong. Somebody just passed without having a will. And so we have to go to the judge and get his approval for somebody to oversee the matter and then get all of the assets disposed of properly. So no, there are different type of judges. I guess I just want to run through in the state of Mississippi the types of judges that we have. But municipal court judges, they are the first level. So they are basically city court judges. And so they handle matters within the municipality, meaning traffic tickets, misdemeanors, possibly preliminary hearings for any felonies that happen in the city. And then it kind of kicks up to a higher level court. The next level is the justice court judge. Now, this is the thing. In Mississippi, our justice court judges don't have to be lawyers. All you have to do is have a high school diploma.
Yeah, as the people elect you, you're the judge. It's so weird.
Yes, they call it the people's court. So anybody can be a municipal court judge, and it pays a really nice salary, like almost $50,000, and you're literally working only one day a week. Okay, and you don't have to be an attorney. They'll train you on your job. Welcome to Mississippi. A lot of attorneys would prefer that the justice court judges are lawyers, because sometimes when we go there and we went to law school and the judge we're before hasn't, there sometimes is a little disconnect, right? Because somebody knows the law a little better than the other, but somebody has more power in the courtroom on that day than the other. So that's the next level above a municipal court judge, and that is an elected position. It's a part-time position as well. After you get past the justice court, we have the county court, and that is an elected position as well, and it is a full-time position for most counties that have a county court. They have jurisdiction over a wide range of matters: youth court, criminal law, some civil matters, and then their jurisdiction goes up to a couple of $100,000. So they handle a wide variety of cases. Once you get past the county court, you have two courts that are kind of on the same level. They call it the chancery court, where you'll be dealing with mostly family law matters, and then the circuit court, where you'll be dealing with a lot of your criminal law matters. And these
and
are
your chancery
full-time
court.
positions.
Yeah, your chancery court in Hinds County, Tiffany Grove is a friend of mine, Madison Central alum, and she said the chancery court judge now. She said in all of her years of being in the law field, she has never once tried a felony case. I'm sorry, never once tried a criminal case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it really shows you that's somebody who's a judge that sits on the bench and was an attorney for years and never has ever in her career dealt with any type of criminal case.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people, they find their niche in the law and they kind of stick to it. But the beauty of the law is that you can transition and kind of reinvent yourself anytime you want to. So if I did criminal law, if I wanted to, I could pick up a book and kind of learn what I need to learn, and I could go in a chancery court and still handle cases because I'm not just exclusively bound to do criminal law just because I've always done that. It's just a lot of people's comfort zones would allow them to only just stay in the area of law that they're comfortable. And so, for instance, I haven't done a lot of chancery court practice. The bulk of my career has been criminal law, but I have done some chancery court cases as well, like divorces and things of that nature. So I've had an opportunity to kind of be in all levels of the court. And so after you get through with chancery and circuit court, you have the Mississippi Court of Appeals. And so they handle appeals from the chancery court or the circuit court. And then once you get past the Court of Appeals, you're finally at the Mississippi Supreme Court. So that's the judicial system in the state of Mississippi. And of course, we have the federal court system. I personally have not done a lot of work in the federal court system, so I've only been on the state level as a state government. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then even at the state Supreme Court, a good friend of mine, Shalon Wansley, was a general counsel for the Supreme Court and rarely stepped in the courtroom. She reviewed a lot of documents. Obviously, one thing I think that kids don't understand is that when we hear we'll hear about contracts all the time. Contracts are legally binding documents, and that's why they always say read what you sign. And if you need to get an attorney to go over that, unfortunately, people get taken advantage of all the time because they sign something without knowing the legal terms.
Yeah,
that's why it's
absolutely
important to have some sort of legal advice. So attorneys do play a huge role, other than what we see on TV of locking up bad guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I had just graduated from law school and I was buying my house in Madison, and I put in an offer on the house and they had accepted my offer. But right after they accepted my offer, somebody put in a higher offer and they tried to rescind my contract. And because I had went to law school and had taken a contracts law class and had earned an A in that course, I knew that they couldn't do that. So I kind of reminded them of the fact that if you all try to rescind my contract inappropriately, then I have grounds to sue you all and collect damages for that. So I will say that going to law school, I have never regretted it. Like the knowledge that I've learned, even outside of working as an attorney, it's been helpful in my everyday life as far as reading contracts, because we enter contracts all the time, whether you're purchasing a home or purchasing a car, or whether you're going to the cell phone company, C Spire or AT&T, and you have those little fine line agreements. Those are contracts. You're entering into a contract. If you have a Facebook page or an Instagram or a Snapchat, you probably haven't read the fine print, but that's the contract. So we deal with these type of things every day in our lives, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to understand what you're reading and what you're dealing with. So.
All right, now before I get to the students' questions, there is something that I did want to talk about, and you hear a lot of things on the news about problems in the criminal justice system. They always say, you hear people say the system is broken, and obviously, I think everybody can agree, no matter how you feel, there are holes in the justice system. There are things that can be fixed on the federal level, state level, and there has been for years. But one thing I think is important is that there needs, just like there's a diverse population of people, there needs to be a diverse population of legal professionals to bring different perspectives. Because obviously, if somebody's evil and committed atrocious violent acts, they need to be locked up. But there have been people fall through the cracks because maybe they weren't able to communicate because they didn't speak English as well, or they couldn't really afford a high priced attorney, and then people have lost freedom and lost years of their life because of not being able to find somebody to represent them in a legal proceeding. So why is it so important for legal professionals to be, obviously we need more women. We need more people that can speak multiple languages. We need, and it's something I've never thought about until I've started people telling me recently is we need people that speak sign language in these fields, because you'd be shocked how many hearing impaired people there are. And then also we need all these minority kids to, kind of think about, how can you help your community by being their voice in the criminal justice system.
Absolutely, absolutely. We know that there's bias and prejudice in the criminal justice system. That's something that is obvious. And I think that a lot of individuals don't understand the impact that they can have if they are a part of the change they would like to see happen in their communities. I have had classmates who say, "Oh, I want to be a criminal defense attorney and I want to help people out and da 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 da." And I tell them, I said, "But the defense attorney is working on the back end. You want to be a part of change. Your prosecutors and your law enforcement professionals and your judges and your district attorneys, those are the individuals who can truly make a change in the criminal justice system, and not work behind the 8 ball as a defense attorney." And I think that we need to see more programs for our youth. There's a greater chance that if a child has been a part of the youth court system, that they will unfortunately probably gravitate to the adult legal system. And so, in addition to that, we have mental health issues, right? I would say when I was a prosecutor, over 50% of the individuals that I dealt with probably had some type of mental health issues or drama that they had in their life that could have had an impact on their actions. And so there's a lot of things that we need in the legal system. There are individuals in the legal system who have backgrounds in social work. I had a law school classmate. She was a social worker and she went to law school to become an attorney. And people who have been law enforcement officers or cops themselves that have went to law school. But I think that it's important to have diversity in the legal system because you don't want to be the only one in the courtroom that looks like you, because that typically doesn't end well. Because unfortunately, there are biases against individuals. And so it's better to have a diversified pool of individuals and a diversity in the judicial system as far as with your judges and with your attorneys. And then it's important to have attorneys that are not just all about making a dollar, but some that are interested in giving back to their communities. And so these type of attorneys are usually your government attorneys, your public defenders, your prosecutors. They don't make a lot of money, but if they're in it for the right reason, then you really do have yourself some good help. As a part of the criminal justice system in the state of Mississippi and other states as well, if you are what they consider indigent or low income and you're facing a felony charge, you're entitled to a public defender. And I think a lot of public defenders have a bad rap, but I think that's because they're overworked and underpaid. So for instance, if we talk about the average salary of a public defender versus a prosecutor, the public defenders are making probably half of what your prosecutors are making. So like if you have a public defender who's making $50,000 a year and you have a prosecutor that's making $100,000 a year, but they have the same caseload, performance may be lacking. So that's just something to consider and look into. But we definitely need a wide variety of individuals with a host of backgrounds. Being able to speak multiple languages is definitely something that would make someone quite marketable. We've had to have interpreters come in. And so, of course, that would put somebody at a disadvantage. I know a lot of immigration lawyers who are bilingual. They can speak English and Spanish and things of that nature. And that's great. And that's what's needed. So definitely need to look into that.
Absolutely. Well, I got some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. And these are all ninth graders. This first one is Samaya Williamson, one of our volleyball and basketball players here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, what is the best skill necessary to be a successful attorney?
I think you need to be a good reader. You need to be a good writer. It would be great to have critical thinking skills and kind of be able to think outside the box, because sometimes what you're looking at is not necessarily what it is. And so you need to be able to look at all angles and facts of a case to make a determination of what's real versus what's not. So I think that just, and having a good work ethic, right? You don't want to be a lazy attorney. You want to be a hard working attorney, right? And so if there are some things that you don't know, if you have the ability to read and write really, really well, and you're a good critical thinker, what you don't know, you'll be able to read and kind of study and catch up on, right? Because like I said, when you go to law school, they're going to train you in a wide variety of things. So you may come out of law school thinking that you wanted to do, for instance, like I did, environmental law, and you've never practiced environmental law. You become a criminal lawyer. And so I may have to pick up a book and read and learn different things that I didn't think that I would have had if I did the area of law that I went to law school to do. But if you can read and write and understand, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, and you made a good point there about being lazy as an attorney, because and obviously kids in high school, they want to make the big bucks. But when you have people's freedom, people's livelihood, people's kids on the line, they don't want somebody that's in it for the money. And I think that's that cannot be emphasized enough. And attorneys are not the only field where it's like that. But you see, I want to make a bunch of money. Well, if you're gonna make a bunch of money, you're gonna have to really work in this career.
And I like to tell people my rule of thumb has been find something that you enjoy doing and then figure out how to make a lot of money doing that.
There you
Because
go.
if you're doing something that you love and you're very good at it, the money will eventually come. It'll find you.
Oh, big time. Here's a good one. This is Trayvon Willis, one of our football and basketball players here at Velma Jackson, and he asked, "What was your biggest motivation to graduate early from high school?"
Well, so unfortunately, when I went to law school, I had some classmates who came from fantastic backgrounds, and their parents were doctors, lawyers, and had plenty of money. Well, my parent didn't have anything. I grew up in West Jackson in what we call the hood, and I went to Blackburn and Jim Hill and Jackson State, which we all know is in the hood of Jackson. And it was just, I wanted to change my circumstances and have a better life.
There you go.
Most people didn't know that when I was in high school that I was dealing with a father that was a drug addict because I excelled in school. But I used that as motivation to do better and to get out of a situation that I didn't want to be in, and also to provide better for my children. And so, I'm thankful and blessed that that's exactly what I did and what I've been able to do. My kids, they live a life of privilege. I tell them that all the time. You have a good life. I mean, you live in a gated community and you don't have to worry about things. Money is not a problem. You have, everything you need and the bulk of what you want.
Yeah, and that's a good, what you said there, and kind of sums up what I say a lot. I don't care who you are. First of all, the world doesn't owe anybody anything. But second, nothing in your life changes until you decide to change it. So it really is about changing. If you want your circumstances to change, everybody has the ability to do it, no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
Here's a good one. This is Jordan Jobe. He's another one of our football players. And he asked, what was your main motivation to focus on the law field?
Well, law was a second career for me. I was a college professor before I went to law school. And I think there was a situation that I had saw with a family law issue before that kind of helped initiate my interest in the legal field. I remember there was a gentleman who unfortunately had a child out of wedlock, and it was by his ex-girlfriend, and she probably thought that if she got pregnant and had his baby, that they were going to be together forever. Well, he didn't like her, and he wanted to love on his child. And when she realized that they weren't going to be a family, she packed up the baby and dropped the baby off to him. And so he took care of his baby all these years. And then when he got ready to get married, the ex-girlfriend popped back into life and said, "Oh, I want to be a part of my child's life," and didn't even know a child because she dropped her child off as an infant. And because he didn't know anything about the legal system, whereas he could have filed legal documentation to sever her rights to the child, when she came back, he was entitled to allow her visitation and access to the child. And it was during that process, that I had an interest in fathers advocacy work and helping fathers become have greater roles in the lives of their children, because there's a lot of dads out there who mess up and unfortunately, aren't married to women that they have children with. And they realize that they don't want the woman, but they want to be a part of their kids' lives. And they have to pay the child support, and they're trying to provide for their children, but they don't have the money for a lawyer to help them get visitation rights and be able to kind of maneuver the legal system as they should be able to do. And so I think for the first year of my law career, I focused on those type of cases, and I went over throughout the state of Mississippi, taking those cases pro bono, that means for free. Took those cases for free. And I believe that was some of the most rewarding work that I have ever done, being able to help dads, get access to the children. I remember I had one case where the father hadn't seen his kids in 2 or 3 years. And when I talked to him and I heard the love that he had for his children, I said, I'm taking your case. He had 3 attorneys that he had paid, and they all had quit on him. And so he was just in disbelief that somebody was willing to deal with this crazy estranged wife, baby mama, and help him be able to see his children. It was a long process, but I got it done.
That's awesome. I just got 2 more. This is Ashton Garrett, another one of our football players, and he asked, how do you handle the stress of the legal profession?
Woo! Lots of sweet treats. How should I handle the stress? Some of the things that a lot of attorneys who are well balanced do is they exercise, right? They exercise, they go to the gym, or they do yoga, they do mental health therapy, because unfortunately it is a high impact, high stress job. Like when you know that if you mess up, you're potentially sending somebody to jail for the rest of their life. And you're having an impact not just on them, but everybody who loves and associated with them. So it can be extremely stressful. But me, unfortunately, I've gained like 40 pounds within the last month. I was really cute about a year ago. But this year I have just been eating too many Krispy Kreme donuts, going and getting too many milkshakes from Chick-fil-A. I need to make the gym my friend. But some healthy ways to handle the stress is getting you a good therapist to talk to kind of bounce these things off of, yoga, eating a well-balanced diet, because a lot of times we just are grabbing sandwiches and we're not eating good meals, and that impacts our bodies. We're not getting enough exercise. Lawyers typically sit down a lot because we're behind computers and reading and writing a lot. And so it's important to kind of get you some fresh air and exercise and things of that nature. Unfortunately, there are a lot of attorneys that are addicted to drugs and alcohol because of the stress level. It's so bad that they have a lawyer's program to kind of send you to rehab for those issues. So it's important to do positive things to balance out the stress versus negative things. I think that I'm doing pretty good with just eating sweet treats and gaining weight, but that's still a negative way to handle the stress. So I need to push more towards yoga, exercising, getting a well-balanced diet, and just being more active.
Awesome. Well, I just got one more, and she begged me to ask her a question because she wants to be an attorney. This is Leah Smith, one of our volleyball players here, and she asked, "What is the hardest part of law school?"
Well, I've never had a real big problem with school because I always did pretty well. But I think the hardest part of law school is you have some of the smartest people all in the same room. So there's like, if you're in law school, there's really nobody that's like not smart or that's dumb, because they wouldn't have been admitted. However, what you find out when you go to law school is you're graded on a curve. Okay. And I didn't know this before I went to law school. So this was really stressful my first year. Your first year of law school, you're graded on a curve. And so what that curve means is there are a mandatory number of students who are going to flunk out of law school. And unfortunately, it's about 10%. So like when you start law school, they say, look to your left, look to your right. There's a chance that one of those people will not be here after exams. And you only get one exam. So you're learning all this information from August to December. And you get 3 hours in an exam to show whether you learn the information or not. There are no other tests between there. You just get one shot at it. And then you're competing with everybody else in that room that's smart, that's been studying, 7 hours a day and working hard and trying to learn the information. And then you realize still at the end of that, 10% is going to flunk out. And that doesn't mean that they made an F on the exam. It could mean that if there were 50 people in the room and, the majority of them made at least a 95 and you made a 90, you go home. That was the stressful part about it. It's not like flunking out of law school is not really like flunking out of law school. It's because you're graded on a curve, and it's just depending on how well you do in comparison to the other people in the room. And everybody in the room is smart like you. So you just don't even know how this is going to turn out at the end. You just got to hope, pray for the best, study, work hard, and just believe in yourself and know that I'm not going to be in the 10%. I'm coming back, So that was something that was a little stressful.
Yeah, I think she got a little stressed out already just hearing that, but she still has her heart set on being an attorney. But
you can do it though. You can do it. You can do it. The crazy part about it is,
she's more than capable. But
absolutely, the crazy part about it is when I was in my class, the people that I thought were going to flunk out because they were always asking me questions, they ended up being at the top of the class. So I guess another thing I would say is, don't judge people because you never know how sharp they are.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. I know you got a crazy schedule, but before we go, even if these kids are not interested in the legal field, and we hope that at least a few of them are, you said yourself you grew up with some crazy obstacles as a young girl here in the Jackson area that it's tough for anybody to get through. So it's not a matter of if things are going to happen to hold up your success. It's a matter of when. So when these kids, no matter who they are, face these same obstacles, what can they do to overcome this?
Well, I think that, just having some faith and just realizing that things can and will get better. Never settling for this is the life that I have to have. You want to go after the life that you want to have.
Absolutely.
You are not a product of your circumstances or of where you're from. I was from a poor community, I've seen the repo man come repossess cars. I've been to drug houses, from my father overdosing and having to go to the hospital and get pumped out. And I still overcame, and I still was able to do what it was that I aspired to do. I like to say that based off of seeing it, you got an option. You can be a product of your situation, or you can change those circumstances. I don't drink, I don't smoke, because I saw the negativity associated with that. But like I said, you just gotta keep in mind that you can do better. I like to tell people everybody has the ability to succeed. It's just some of us have had a rougher road to success than others. It's a beautiful thing, and it's fantastic for somebody who grew up in ideal circumstances to succeed. But it's definitely a beautiful thing for somebody like me who has dealt with a lot, to show other people who come from similar backgrounds that they can do it, and they can be successful, and they can make a lot of money. They can make a lot of money. I remember growing up and seeing my parents' cars being repossessed to being able to buy my kids' cars when they were 16. I think my baby boy, I got him the first 2024 Mustang in the state of Mississippi. And those are the type of things that you can do if you work hard, put your mind to it, and just know that you want to change your loved one's circumstances. I moved my parents out of West Jackson. They live in Madison too. That was one of my goals, to not just change my life, but change the life of everybody I love around. So you can do it too.
That's awesome. Well, again, Natasha Magee-Woods, municipal court judge, Shaw, Mississippi, and also attorney here in Jackson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.